Okay, so in this video, we are going to be talking about software engineering managers. We're going to talk about four things. Number one is what's the purpose of a manager? Number two is what does a manager even do on a daily basis? Number three is why are there so many bad managers? And finally, what you can do if you are interested in a career path in becoming a software engineering manager. Hi, my name is DI. I've been a software engineering manager for about 2 years, and I was a software engineer previously for about 5. And 5 years is about bang on average for how long you are an engineer before you transition into becoming a software engineering manager. In my 7-year software engineering career, I've worked at 4 different companies, and across those 4 companies, I have had a total of 12 different managers, which if you do the math is about an average of 3 per company. That's quite a lot. And after having had so many different managers and being a manager now myself, I wanted to share with you what a good manager does and see if it's the right fit for you.
I'm 90% sure Matt is Kylo Ren.
Okay, so let's get right into it and answer the question, what's the purpose of a software engineering manager? A manager, more broadly, is a team leader that sets the direction of where a team should go. It is crucial for the manager to understand how all of the various functions in the team perform and how they can all work together towards a common goal while not necessarily doing the work themselves. So let me give you a few examples. Any sports coach is a manager. They were most likely previously players themselves and then later on got into management of the team. They're not actually on the field playing the sport, but they understand what each position is supposed to do and how they all come together to be the best team that they can be. Another example is the head chef of a restaurant. Your favorite is probably Gordon Ramsay. He's not doing any of the cooking himself anymore. He just manages all of the various parts of the kitchen of all of his restaurants so that they function effectively even if he's not there. And finally, think about the conductor of an orchestra. The conductor of an orchestra doesn't need to know how to play every single instrument themselves, but they need to know how each instrument functions and their role in the score. And so a software engineering manager ensures the high performance of a software engineering team. One of my best friends and mentors said that the manager of the team is kind of like the shit umbrella. You are supposed to hold up the umbrella and protect your team from all of the crap that's being dumped onto them and all of the priorities and the demands, and you underneath your umbrella try to create the best, coziest atmosphere for your team to work at their most productive levels. All right, so now that we have defined the purpose of a manager, let's talk about what does a manager actually do?
Why is no one ready?
Here. It's a tough call. They're so different.
The answer is that it depends. Now, after I became a manager, it became crucial for me to become really good at 3 main skills: personal, delivery, and technical. And I've listed those out in that order because that's the order that's most important to me. So let's break each one of those down, and in the explanation, we'll start to get a sense of what a manager actually does on a day-to-day basis. And from here on out, we're only going to be talking about software engineering managers. So if I just say manager, just know that we are still in the realm of software engineering managers. Okay? All right, so let's break each one of them down. Number 1 is personal skills. Very simply put, your job as a manager is to make sure that the team is happy. Because when they're happy, they're usually going to perform their best work. And if we want to ensure the high performance of our team, it's in my best interest to make sure that my team is happy. Now, there are various tactics on how you can achieve this. Some use carrots, some use sticks. But in my experience, the simplest solution is to just work really hard for your team. Help them get promoted, protect their interests, protect their work-life balance. Look out for opportunities for them to grow in their careers. When your team members really feel that you as a manager care about them by simple human nature, by the principle of reciprocity, then they're gonna want to work hard because they see you working hard for them. Now, this is so much easier said than done sometimes. So in order to learn what your teammates want and what their motivations are and what they hope to get out of their careers, you have to really understand them. And in order to do that, you're mainly going to be doing this in one-on-ones. Books on management say that the best cadence for one-on-ones is a weekly cadence. And depending on your relationship with each unique direct report, you can change that and adjust as needed. Maybe you want to meet every other week, maybe once a month. But as a general rule of thumb, I always start by weekly one-on-ones, and I usually keep them that way. The other personal rule that is required as a manager is you're setting the tone of the team. Some managers are a little bit more friendly and casual in their tone. Other managers are a little bit more business and serious. It's up to you to decide what kind of tone you want to set for your team. And that helps us transition to, well, what work is actually being done, which brings us to number 2, the delivery aspect of a manager.
No! God, please, no! No! No!
Now, when you become a manager, you're going to work with other people, usually product managers or your boss, to work on projects. The projects will usually have a big goal of what they would like to achieve. Now, it's up to you to balance how do we get to that goal in the deadline that we have with the engineers that we have with as little surprises as possible. So you usually work backwards from the final delivery date. So that's your deadline. Then you need to calculate, okay, how many engineers are there? How many are senior engineers versus junior engineers? Front end versus back end? And what their estimated pace is and how long it would take for them to build each portion and which pieces need to come before or after other parts of the work. And then you push that all together and make sure that you can deliver it on time. Now, another tip when I am doing the delivery portion of my work is I always double the estimate of how long I think this will take in my head. When people plan, they only think about the green happy path. They only assume that nothing will go wrong. There has never been a project where nothing went wrong. Something will go wrong at some point, if not at multiple points. So you need to account for that. If you add in buffer time when you first estimate these things out, it's not going to derail the project. If you give them the happiest path of the tightest deadline and things go wrong, which they will, you have put yourself in a very bad situation. Also, if you're a software engineer, please learn this lesson early on. You want to communicate as quickly as possible when things go wrong. One time, I had a senior software engineer tell me that something he was supposed to deliver by the end of the week would be ready by the end of the week, no problems. And he was a senior software engineer, so I thought he knew what he was talking about. Then hours before that deadline, he panicked and said, I can't do this. This isn't going to work. And I was like, well, why have you been telling me all week that you could get it to me done by the Friday deadline? Don't be that guy. Communicate early on when problems arise, when you think the deadline might be in jeopardy, because if you communicate it early on, there's still time to move things around and to make compromises. Now, when you're planning these projects, you cannot have a fixed deadline and fixed scope. One of the two has to give. I always tell product managers, I can build anything you want. Nothing is impossible. We can build anything. However, it's my job to clearly convey the cost-benefit analysis of building it. If you want everything, we could build you everything if we had an infinite amount of time. Oh, we do not have an infinite amount of time, then you have to start cutting down on the scope. But if you are telling me that all of these things that you're asking for are essential and we can't cut any of it out, then we must move the deadline back. You know you're working with a really bad product manager if they will not budge on the deadline and they will not budge on the scope. One of the two has to give. A huge portion of the job of being a manager is going to be in these meetings, negotiating the deadlines and the scope and to see what we can build, and then also communicating out to stakeholders the status updates of these projects.
Hi, Jim.
And finally, the last skill of a good software engineering manager is technical skills. Technical skills is the ability to understand technically what is happening with the code. Most likely as a manager, you were probably previously a software engineer yourself. So for example, I was a front-end engineer. When I manage a team and the front-end engineers run into an issue, I can step in and walk the walk. I can give them suggestions on how I would fix it. I can actually step in, jump into the trenches, and help them solve the problem myself. But if there's a problem on the back end, I don't know back end as well. So it takes me a little bit more time to talk with my back end engineers to really understand what's going on with the situation, and then quickly figuring out who to reach out to who can help with that situation. And technical skills is important because as a manager, you want to be respected. If you're trying to lead a team of engineers and if you don't have that experience yourself, it's just so much harder to build that respect. It's not impossible, but it's a lot harder. And so those are the three main skills of a manager. You want to have really good personal skills, you want to have really good delivery skills, and you want to have really good technical skills. And on that triangle, I've never seen anyone have all of them. It's gonna be like a moving weighted triangle where if you have two, it's still pretty solid.
Why are you interrupting me?
Well, I just thought that you...
You thought? You thought? You do not interrupt me! When I am busy, do you understand me?
And so now let's talk about why there are so many bad managers. Simply put, the skill sets of a manager are completely different than the skill set of a software engineer. Because most software engineering managers were promoted to manager after being a rock star software engineer. And a lot of these software engineers over-index on technical skills and delivery skills. But when you become a manager, those things don't matter anymore. It's an entirely different job. And so unless they read up on books, unless they were thinking about how they wanted to become a manager, they're gonna be kind of bad at it in the beginning. Simply put, I'm saying I wish more managers had good personal skills, because all of the best managers that I've had, not surprisingly, have had good personal skills. And let me show you why. I'm going to build a 2x2 Punnett square where on the left side, we're gonna have good personal skills and bad personal skills. And across the top, I'm gonna have good technical skills and bad technical skills. In the top left, we got that sweet spot. It's good personal skills and good technical skills. These are your unicorn managers. In terms of the technicals, they know how to walk the walk. They know how to plan and deliver things on time that doesn't put the team at risk. And in addition to all of that, they're gonna be great people to be around. They're gonna really get to know you, understand your motivations, have this rapport with you that kind of feels like you guys are friends. These managers are so hard to come by. And if you find one, try to stay with them for as long as you can. Honestly, it's going to make your life so much better.
What you don't know is that that sweater is not just blue, it's not turquoise, it's not lapis, it's actually cerulean.
Now, let's move to the bottom left. This is bad personal skills, but good technical skills. This is the majority of managers that I've had. And within this group, there's a spectrum. There's the nice managers, and then there's kind of like the hard-ass managers. The nice managers, they were rock star, superstar, amazing engineers. And because they were so good at their jobs, whenever there's a problem that arises, they know exactly how to step in and help you out. They understand the technical limitations of what's being asked sometimes. So your one-on-ones might be like a little awkward and not as fun, but the team always seems to maintain like a pretty good momentum. But then on the other end of that spectrum, I've had managers that were a little bit more hard asses, and because they were superstar engineers, sometimes it's harder to communicate why things might take longer, especially if they themselves could do it faster. Sometimes they just commit to so many projects that really feel like there's pressure coming down on you, even though none of the team thought it was a good idea to commit to all of these various projects. So if you have a manager that has bad personal skills but good technical skills, it's a little bit of like a double-edged sword, because they do really know what they're talking about, but it's not super fun to be on their teams, honestly.
My job is to find out why. Now give me a double espresso and see if there's some place around here with decent sushi. I'd kill for a spicy tuna roll right about now.
Now, let's move over one, and you have good personal skills, but bad technical skills. This is a rare bucket, because having good technical skills is almost a prerequisite to becoming a software engineering manager. I've only ever met one manager in my entire career that came from this bucket, where they did not have the technical skills, but they had such good personal skills. And they were a great manager because their excellent communication skills was enough to override their lack of technical skills.
We have sort of a problem here. Yeah, you apparently didn't put one of the new cover sheets on your TPS reports.
And then in the last corner, you have bad personal skills and bad technical skills. I mean, why are you even in this role at that point? I don't think I've met a manager that was bad at both, because you wouldn't last.
I like waking up to the smell of bacon. Sue me. And since I don't have a butler, I have to do it myself. And
so those are kind of like the buckets of where managers can fall. But in order to understand why there's such few good managers, we have to understand the funnel, because the barrier to entry to becoming a software engineering manager is so high. For example, a job that has a low barrier to entry is a product manager. I have seen product managers come from every single portion of the company. They can come from sales, from customer service, from QA. Any role in the company where you are directly interacting regularly with the product, you can become a product manager. And so I've seen a lot of people make that transition over. It's a career path with a relatively low barrier to entry. Now let's talk about a job that has a slightly higher barrier to entry. It is an entry-level software engineer. An entry-level software engineer probably needs to have a CS degree, so you went to college and have 4 years of schooling, or you might have gone to a boot camp, which is what I did. Regardless, it takes an immense amount of time, energy, and effort on your part to even apply for an entry-level software engineering position. And every year, there's quite a healthy supply of new grads from colleges and boot camps that are eager to start their career in software engineering. Once you start in software engineering, a manager, as we mentioned earlier, has about 5 years of experience. So you're gonna have to work up for 5 years. And during all those 5 years, your career cannot get derailed. You need to stick with it. It's hard. Even before I became a manager, I thought about pivoting when my career wasn't going well. And so the number of engineers who have 5 years or more experience under their belts versus 0 starting out is gonna be less. So now we've whittled it down to engineers who have 5 years of experience. And among that group, we need to find a subset of people who even want to become managers. I know plenty of people who have 5 years or more of experience, but they never want to be a manager. They don't like dealing with the politics. They don't want to deal with all the people and all the meetings. They just want to do their work and be left alone. Totally fine. That's what they want. So it's an even smaller subsection of people who have 5 years of engineering experience who even want to become a manager. And then it's another smaller subset of people who actually have the personal skills to communicate effectively. Because if they haven't been practicing that throughout their careers and they've been over-indexing on just technical and delivery, well, they're gonna be in for a rude awakening when a lot of the job is just always talking to people. If you go out into the world and you're trying to find somebody who has 5 or more years of software engineering experience, who even wants to become a manager, who even likes talking to people, it's quite a rare combination of factors that you're looking for.
Now you miss what's going on behind the scenes. I'm looking forward to having some real talk with some real folks.
And so, what should you do if you want to become a manager? Well, first of all, thanks for being here and watching this video, because the world needs better managers. I would have benefited at every stage of my career if I had better managers. And the power dynamics are so messed up and stacked against you. You have to blindly trust your boss, but your boss has the power to give you a good or bad review, and in extreme cases, fire you. You can't win against them. So you have to just blindly trust that they're not gonna screw you over and that they have your best interests at heart, which they might or they might not. Who knows? And when bad people get into positions of power, everybody underneath them suffers. We need better leaders. So here's what you should do if you're interested in becoming a manager. First, practice all these 3 skills. For the personal, take on a mentee. You should find a junior engineer and meet with them regularly as if you were their managers. Listen to what they want out of their careers. Listen to how you can help them get to where they want to get to. In terms of delivery, start taking responsibility of larger projects. Work with the product manager to set out the timelines, then weigh the pros and cons of the deadline versus the scope and what you can cut and what you can compromise on. You should have several projects under your belt that you can point to, that you can say, hey, I was able to deliver these projects without jeopardizing it. That just comes with practice. And in terms of technical, continue to level up your skills, learn about things that are adjacent to what you work on, understand a wider breadth of how the larger puzzle pieces all fit together and work in harmony. Start reading some books on management. The best book I've ever read on management is Radical Candor, but I'll list a few books in the description that were really helpful for me in my managerial career. And always remember that you can try it out, and if it's not for you, you don't have to stick with it. You can go back to being an individual contributor. It's your career. It's your life. You should test things out, see if you like it, and if you don't, you can always turn back. There's no shame in that. And so that's what a software manager actually does. Let me know down in the comments if you have any questions about becoming a software engineering manager. Happy to answer any questions that you guys might have. Okay, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.